All right, we'll go ahead and get started. A small introduction, just a little bit about me. I'm a leadership coach here at Amazon. I've worked for Amazon for 13, actually 14 years now, so my entire adult life, basically. And just because I've worked at just Amazon, I've actually worked in a lot of different really cool roles. So I've worked in supply chain, I've worked in logistics, and I've worked in management. I've also worked in this leadership coaching role, which is my absolute favorite right now. I currently live in Phoenix, Arizona, but as I mentioned, I am right now in San Francisco because we have a class session that we're going to launch. Some fun facts about myself. I have a really large family. There's 14 of us total, which I personally think that really helped me with conflict resolution and how to deal with stressful situations, and indeed how to manage my time appropriately, to be honest with you. And then just extra bonus, I am a Disney adult. I have Disney tattoos. I'm wearing Disney currently. I love all things Disney. So if you are a Disney fan as well and you have some stories, I want to hear them. I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to kind of tell me about them too, because that actually helps me cater these sessions specifically to all of you. So I will like for each of you to tell me your name, a fun fact about you, because we can't have a good conversation unless we know a couple of things about each other. What is your major currently? And what are you expecting to get out of this workshop? In essence, what are the areas in time management that you struggle with the most so that I can give you the best piece of advice? And Miguel, I know you said that your voice is going away. Would you like to participate in this intro? You can
Yeah,
start
yeah,
then.
and I'll kick us off. My name is Miguel, and a fun fact about me, one thing that I love to bring up is I used to be a music major in college, and so I played five different instruments. I thought I was going to go for music ed. I love just teaching and just being with people. So that's a fun fact. I can play a bunch of instruments fluently. My major, I'm no longer in school. What am I expecting to get out of the workshop? I think time management, we can always work on time management. It's such a great reminder, especially with me now and what I work with now. There's just so many moving parts, and I can easily get overwhelmed or inundated with a lot of different tasks, and being able to section that off can be hard. So any kind of practical applications or structures around time managing a bunch of different things would be really helpful.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm just going to go right down the list here. I'll call your name out if that makes everyone comfortable so you know when you're going to go. Ebony, you're next up on my little photograph list.
I knew it was going to be me. So I am Ebony. A fun fact about me, I have been obsessed with dragons since I was about 5 years old, and I don't know why. I don't know where I saw one, but it is serious. I've got tattoos. I've got a china cabinet full of stained glass dragons. I had a cat named Dragon. It's a
Cool.
mess. Um, so I am actually I've gone back to school. So my major there is business administration, and like Miguel said, I just don't have enough time. So if I could manage what I have, it would be great. But also I want to kind of see how the workshops run so I can make them even better. I want to level up you guys. So
Perfect. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Travis, you are up next.
Oh man, so fancy. Hello guys, I'm Travis. I apologize for the lighting. I literally just came from the gym.
You're
And I'm
good.
in my car. But a fun fact about me. There's a lot. I will say, I think I shared this at the last meeting, but I've actually spent an entire semester dissecting a human body for human anatomy lab. So that was actually cool and helped me learn more about anatomy, but like in a direct way. So that was really cool. And also I think another one is I'm learning Spanish right now, and I think it's been helpful in school because it kind of challenges my mind and helps me see things in the world, everything around me, like in a different way. And then what was I think I made exercise science, and then what am I expecting to get out of this workshop? I don't want to be a copycat, but as I'm in my junior year, I've had so much going on that I think time management is like probably the most important that I need right now. So that would be a really good thing to take away.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And it doesn't matter where you are, you're here. That's all that matters. So you're good. We're going to move on to Cassandra.
Hi, my name is Cassandra. A fun fact about me, I'm currently co-leading an a cappella group for our Filipino club on campus because we have like an annual culture show every spring, and so we do dancing and then also like have an a cappella group that sings. So I'm doing that. And then my major is behavioral neuroscience. And for what I'm expecting to get out of this workshop, time management has definitely been like one of the top things that I've always had to work on, even like in high school, just because I tend to procrastinate a lot. So I think just like help with that. And then also like sometimes I do have the time, but then it's just like whatever I have to do gives me like so much anxiety. So it's hard to like start. So maybe some stuff around that. But yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. What song are you training for acapella, your acapella group?
So we're singing two songs. We usually do an English one and then one in Tagalog, which is like the main language in the Philippines. So the English one we're doing Viva La Vida by Coldplay. And then the Tagalog one is called Hanggang sa Huli, and it was sang by like a Filipino pop boy group. So
That's cool. That's awesome. You should record it, send it to the group, and like, I would love to see that.
yes,
I
I
would love to
will.
see
There's
that.
also a live stream, so I could share that if you
I
guys
would love
want.
to see it. That would be great. I appreciate you for sharing. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to Leonardo.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Leonardo Cruz, but people usually call me Leo. A fun fact about me, and I think I'm thinking about it too, and I think I might have said this the last time, as well, but I like switched my like, I guess it also ties into the next question, my major completely. So I used to be pre-law, but now I'm pre-optometry. And my major is bio now. But I'm also expecting to get some of the things Cassandra also said. I guess like trying to manage time to like reduce anxiety also, especially being in our junior year, there's like so many commitments, like every hour of the day I feel like is laid out, and like I've done it in a way that I like have it all laid out like in my Google Calendar, but it seems so overwhelming at times. So I guess like even like still getting back to like work-life balance, I think it's just something I'm gonna have to keep figuring out in life, but I guess like being able to apply that more in my schedule as well.
I appreciate it. Yes, we'll talk about work-life balance. That is my favorite topic of all time. So I see you, I hear you, I got you. All righty, Samantha.
Hi, my name's Samantha. A fun fact about me, I'm gonna go with the same thing Leo did. I was pre-med and completely switched over to business. So now I'm a supply chain management major and I'm minoring in agroecology, which is basically like agriculture and plants. Um, and what do I expect to get out of this workshop? I'm really bad at time management. Like, there's just so much time in my day, but I feel like I don't use it wisely enough. And like, I do like for example, like I'll go to the gym and shower and it's like that takes me like my whole day and it's like I just need to better manage my time because I could use it so much better.
I got you. Yeah, sometimes like having a lot of time to do something isn't always the best, right? So yeah, we'll talk about all of the things. I appreciate you all for being here and joining. And those of you that changed your major, that is a lot. That is a lot. I wish you all the luck in the world on those things. And you're very brave for doing it. So I'm proud of y'all. All right, let's get right into it then. We're going to talk about time management. And before we get into the actual content piece, I actually have a small little task that I want you all to do. I want you to either, I know that one of you are in your car, and that is totally okay if you don't have pen and paper on you, but I want you to take a couple minutes. I'll probably give you like 3 minutes to really think about what are those things that are constantly on your to-do list. And if you have pen and paper next to you, I want you to actually write out 10 to 15 things that you do or end up on your to-do list very regularly. We're going to go back to that after this 3 minutes, but I'm going to give you 3 minutes just to write things that show up on your to-do list, maybe that you have to action on this week or today or tomorrow, because it is later in the day. But I'll give us 3 minutes and then I will let y'all know when those 3 minutes are up. All right, we're going to get back to that to-do list after we get to part of the content here. So I want you to keep that close, but you don't have to keep looking at it right now. Or if you forgot things, it's not an all-encompassing list. So it's not your actual to-do list. And we're not playing with fire here. We're just looking at things that we have coming up here. So when we are thinking about time management, a lot of the things that happens to us kind of naturally are like distractions, We think sometimes that we can either multitask or not multitask, depending on kind of how our personality is and what we do on a general day to day. We're going to talk about in this course, like how do we multitask appropriately? We call that project stacking or task stacking. How do we look at kind of the things all encompassing in our day? And then how do we build like really good habits to be able to really look at what we have, be able to prioritize those things. Sorry, I can't speak today. Prioritize those things and really look at what's important, what's not important, what can we push off to tomorrow, what needs to be on our to-do list, what doesn't, those types of things. And then I'll talk to you about what some companies actually do to help with time management and those skills, so that you can kind of take those and run with it yourself. So you don't need to be at the company already to learn how to do all of those things. The first thing I will kind of just bring up here, at a glance, we're going to talk about using available tools. So we're going to bring up some tools and some resources. If some of you have resources and tools that you already have that you use that works really well for you, I want to hear about it. Your peers want to hear about it. So start thinking about those things that really are helpful. Recognizing and avoiding time wasters, and they can come in all different shapes and forms, right? It could be how often you walk to the water cooler. Maybe we need a bigger water bottle, or it could be something like every time I'm close to my phone, I pick up my phone and then I'm scrolling Instagram, right? What are those time wasters? And how do we kind of avoid and work through what that looks like? And then the last piece, which right now it's not hot button item or not something that you need to prioritize because you are still in school, but something that as you kind of work through what that looks like, how do we delegate tasks? How do we take everything that we have to do and maybe hand it off to a peer, hand it off to a direct report, hand it off to a subordinate, right? How do we take the things that we don't have to work on ourselves and spread the wealth, share what that work looks like with other people? The first thing I will kind of mention, and it's been a quote that really sticks with me all of the time, and I will just read it out here. You can screenshot this if you so choose, is a quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower. He says, "I have two kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent is not important, and the important is never urgent." And so I want us to start looking at and thinking about all of the things that we have to do and the things that show up on our to-do list on a daily basis or a weekly basis. And we're going to start looking at what's important, what's not important, what is urgent, and what's not urgent. And that will help us to really prioritize what those tasks are, so that if something is super urgent or super important, that we take it and action on it first, versus if it's not really super urgent, super important, it might be a time waster and we might be using all of our resources and energies on the wrong things. So I love this quote. It is something that has always helped me, but here is how we're going to do it. First, we want to understand what urgent and what important are. So let's start with some basic definitions. Urgent is basically something that requires immediate attention, must be completed as soon as possible. Those rush type of things that maybe if you are in the workforce or at school that you have to work on super quickly, a late time assignment, something that has to get done right now. The second is important. It may not require immediate attention, doesn't change the importance of it, doesn't make it fall off of your to-do list, essentially, and can also add an extra element to how we prioritize. Helps towards long-term goals. So when something is important versus urgent, and we focus on it, we can kind of plan those for later times or strategically place increments of time when we want to work on it, but it doesn't mean that it has to get done right here, right now. And then use resources efficiently to complete them. I'm going to cover some of the project planning tools, like I mentioned, and I'm going to cover some just personal tools that I like to use. But again, if y'all have any, I do want to hear them. So now let's go back to our actual to-do list that we created earlier. And Travis, again, I know you're in your car, so just think back at those items. We are going to actually take those to-do list items and we're going to try to categorize them, okay? We have 4 quadrants here. Those 2 basic titles, important and urgent, are here on the matrix. And what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of those line items in our task and we're going to try to fit them into a quadrant, right? And this is going to be your individual task that you created on your to-do list, just so you can kind of put that into perspective for yourselves. So we have 4 different quadrants. We have the do, the schedule, the delegate, and the delete quadrant. Now, I encourage you to, if you are struggling with prioritizing or if you are struggling with a 30-item to-do list, to take it, throw it into this matrix, see what you get. If you wanted to create something, I usually do like a list for people and just have them drag and drop things in. But you take your items and you're basically just trying to figure out where in this quadrant do each one of your to-do items fit. The do are tasks with deadlines that have consequences, right? You need to do them now. They're both urgent and important. You need to stop, drop, and roll. Need to figure this out. Then we move over to the left-hand side where we have not urgent. We have something that's important and not urgent. In this case, we do need to work on it, but maybe we can spread out how much we put into that task throughout the week or throughout 2 days, or maybe a month, depending on how long the deadline is for that particular thing. So for example, if you're writing a paper and it needs to be 12 pages long, you can write one paper every day for 12 days, or you can sit there 30 minutes before your class and write that 12-page paper, right? It is really dependent on how you spread out what you have on your plate. Then we have the urgent and not important, something that is super urgent, but we personally can't stop what we're doing right in this moment to work on it. Now, this is going to come in handy when you get into the workforce. If, say, you have some direct reports where you know that it needs to get done, it might be something that's super important or a senior level is waiting for, but you don't necessarily have to do it yourself, in which case you can take that task, you can ask someone to help you with it, or you can have someone work on it. And then we have the not important and not urgent. We have those things like emails, maybe that come into our inbox that we don't necessarily need. We have things like suggestions that people give us on certain things, right? Things that we may want to work on eventually, but maybe doesn't really take too much toll on what we're doing in our day-to-day. And so in that case, those things can actually be deleted. So here at Amazon, what we do a lot is we have reoccurring emails that come out with all of our data. And if I'm being 100% honest, a lot of those emails, because I don't work in the front lines in the warehouses anymore, I do tend to delete them or filter them out of my inbox. But what I want us to do now is I want you to take a look at your actual to-do list. And I want you to just initial either IU, IN, UN, like give them the initials of each one of these things and categorize them yourselves. You could even use the titles do, schedule, delete, and delegate if you so choose, if that makes it easier for you. But I want you to just take each line item and I want you to assign it into one of these quadrants. I'm going to give us about 3 minutes again. I'll check in at 3 minutes and see how y'all are doing. And I'll ask one of you to share if you feel comfortable afterwards. Did we find that more of the items fell into the urgent important section based off of our priorities, or do you feel like it's pretty evenly split up? Anyone can share.
I was gonna say that most of mine fell into urgent and important, but that's also because I put like tasks that like class, like homework, like tasks like those. So
Okay, yep. So if you did put a lot into that urgent / important, and they are like those things like class and things, I would keep them in urgent / important. We'll talk about next steps here in a second. But does anyone else want to share? Ebony, I think it's your turn.
Okay, I will share. But you guys have to keep in mind that I am a older person with children. So my to-do list looks a little different. So I have the household things to do, like cooking and shopping and taking the little one to where they need to be and picking them up. But then I also have a full-time job with to-do list, and then I also have like training. So definitely the cooking, the shopping, and the driving, all of that is important, but I can delegate it because I do have a partner. Like I have a husband who can pick up the slack for me. He actually picks up the slack a lot on the housework because that is not my favorite thing to do.
You should go home and give him a kudos for that.
Oh, I said it because he's sitting right on the other side of the computer. But also my work to-do list is like a whole nother thing, where most of that honestly is not urgent, but the people who gave me the task think it's urgent. So there's also that aspect of it's urgent to them. How urgent does it make it to me? But that's a whole nother thing. But then there's things like professional development, which is important, but it's not always as urgent unless it's something like a certification where there's a set testing window. Then depending on when that set testing window is, it determines like how often I need to study and that type of thing. So, but a lot of my things now, I try to delegate the stuff that I can so that I can do the stuff that is a higher priority to me that only I can do.
Perfect. I feel like your example is the best because it has everything. It's so complex. And it just shows kind of like maybe sometimes we're thinking in just kind of one realm when in reality we have three to-do lists that could eventually combine at some point during the day, which is very realistic, right? I recommend, just like Ebony did, to put all of your to-do lists together. So you know, like a full day glance, what you're working on. And a lot of my to-do lists that are work related do have a lot of personal things in there. We'll talk about what those strategies are, but does anyone else want to share? I'll take one more if anyone feels comfortable.
Would I be able to go?
Yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say I didn't write anything down, but at first, like without thinking about it, I usually classify a lot of my to-do list as urgent, but when you really sit down and think about it, not all of it is urgent. Um, and I think it's really important for me to know, like, I have schoolwork, and then I also have other things that contribute to my long-term goals. So, like, for example, I've been trying to volunteer at a hospital, but it's been really tedious because it requires a lot of tests and papers, and it can be a little annoying to get all that stuff. But since I've been able to break it down over the course of like multiple days and like weeks, it's made it easier to manage. But like I said, like I usually classify a lot of my tasks as urgent, even though that's not necessarily the case. Um, and then what I also was gonna say is um, I normally distractions obviously aren't the best. At the same time, when you have such a big schedule, sometimes distractions are also necessary for your mind to be like
Yep.
for you to like work normally, if that makes sense. So I don't have too many distractions, but the ones that I do have, I make sure that I keep some in just so I can be a little sane.
You definitely need a good balance, right? It shouldn't be all just working on one paper all day long or working on one task all day long or studying for one thing all day long, right? There should definitely be some you time. There should be like take a mental break, take a vision break, take a bathroom break, a water break, right? There should be breaks in between because that's when anxiety kicks in and that to-do list gets longer and longer, right? People will be surprised at how often like your mind will just get tired and then that ends up wasting time for nothing, right? If you're tired in front of a computer screen, you could be tired and taking a walk, right? So those moments that you're sitting there and you're like, my brain's not turning on, get up, take a walk, take a step. And I agree with you, Travis. I feel like that mental distraction, those little breaks are necessary. And I would even go so far as to say you should schedule some of them into your day. And that's because when you work very hard and spin your mental wheels at one particular thing, it does take a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your health. It takes a toll on your mental state. And if you are feeling like you're in that sense of stress every time you look at your to-do list or every time you log into your computer, then that's probably what it is. You're associating your work with just that to-do list. You're in front of your computer, you need to work, when reality is you should be taking these little breaks to kind of help you process what that looks like. So thank you for sharing so much, Travis. Here are some of the resources, like I mentioned, I was going to give you. The good old pen and pencil on a to-do list. Nothing beats that. It's quick, it's easy. I personally, and I'll see if it translates, but I'll show you kind of what I've got going on here. I actually use my iPad as kind of my note taker. And so I'll create to-do lists on, you can't really see that, but it's a GoodNotes app and it's basically like a paper version and I just write things down. Doing that and then adding in the Eisenhower matrix or the matrix that we just utilized right next to it will help you with that process. Like, what is urgent? What do I need to work on now? How do I separate these tasks throughout my day? The second would be your calendar. And we've talked about, a lot of you talked about using your calendars already. Your calendar is going to be super helpful in the scheduling portion of your time. And if you don't already index on your calendar, I highly, highly recommend that you do. If you use Outlook, you can actually shade your calendar into different colors. So for example, I have for every really big meeting on my schedule, I have a 30-minute prep time scheduled in, already spaced in there, right? And so if I know that I'm going to go into something where I'm going to have to mentally put a lot of effort and energy into it, there's going to be that 30 minutes of either I need to prep and scramble and work work through what I need to do, or I'm going to sit in front of my computer and listen to Disney music so that I am like mentally prepared for that call. But that 30-minute block of time is mine. And I recommend doing something similar to that so that someone doesn't take up that space on your calendar, so someone doesn't distract you. So you know, like that's a you kind of time. That's going to be the biggest kind of first step essentially that you can do is like, how do I block some time before this class, before this call, before this meeting, before this paper, so that I can mentally get into a place where I want to do it. The second, which has really helped me, and I love telling people this, is when I sit down at my computer to work on something, unless I'm in like facilitator mode, I'll set a 20, 30-minute timer for myself. So for example, I had to write a paper on a program that I was working on here at work. And I set myself a 30-minute timer. I wrote as much as I could for that 30 minutes. I moved on to another task. I then set another 30-minute timer, worked on it a little bit more. And so having those breaks in that thought process gives you a fresh set of eyes on that goal or task. It will help you to really understand where your mental state was before you started working on it that 30 minutes prior. And it does give you those built-in breaks. So scheduling your calendar should be super, super intentional, giving yourself those buffers and all of the things in between. Does anyone have any questions before I give you some of the Amazon project tools that we can use? Or not Amazon, but Amazon uses it. All right, I will basically give you like titles and talk about these tools that are super helpful in case you want to use them. And then feel free, and I will have Miguel send you all my email address, but feel free to reach out. I am so open to helping y'all navigate what each one of these looks like and how to use them. I love doing stuff like this, so feel free to reach out to me at any point. Here at Amazon and in a lot of different companies, actually, we use 4 different like big tools to help collaborate and work on projects with other people. And so if you start learning their name, knowing how they work, learning how to operate them, chances are when you get into your job that we're going to be using things similar to this. So the first one is Quip. And it is basically a shared folder type of setting where multiple people can go in and edit what that looks like. And it is in a form of like similar to Excel. So for example, if me and my co-facilitator for this week, we're working on a project together in that classroom, we can talk to each other in that Quip. We can throw into things into the Excel. We can see what each other are writing, all that kind of fun stuff. Quip is really great at organizing. Then we have Asana project planning. So if you're working on something that is big and has multiple steps or multiple processes that are integrated into the project, I really, really recommend Asana. You can tag people, you can send it to their email address, they can see kind of what the progress and status of your project is. Then we have Playbook. Playbook is an older tool, if I'm being honest with you. Not a lot of people use Playbook that much, but basically it's a scheduling slash project planning tool as well. It seems more like Excel than the newer version of Quip. So it doesn't necessarily give you real time. You see what people are typing, but you get email notifications every time someone edits something in that tool. And then my personal favorite, because I grew up in school and I was the girl that carried big binders separated by subject with different color pens. And so OneNote is just that in a virtual form. And OneNote, you can create tabs, you can create notebooks, you can copy and paste a picture into it, you can copy and paste Word documents. It is the best tool that you have in your arsenal, and it is a Microsoft Suite type item. So if you have Outlook, if you have Word, if you have PowerPoint, you probably have OneNote on your computer. And then you can share your OneNote page with other people. So if you're working on projects with others, you can share that OneNote and they can get those live updates as well. There's an online version of OneNote too, but if you're a binder person just like I was, it is probably the best and easiest tool that you could ever use. Think binder meets PowerPoint. You can copy anything anywhere. So if that helps, these are the tools. But does anyone have any tools that maybe they use that I didn't mention?
I know I use Google Calendar,
Okay.
although I mean that works for me, but I know a lot of my friends, since we do have Outlook, they say that like the Microsoft Calendar is good too. But I'm kind of just like I've been using Google Calendar for so long, so I'm kind of like I don't have the time right now to like totally switch over. Um, eh, oh yeah.
No, you're good. When your to-do list is light, I recommend trying to kind of feel your way through the Outlook calendar because, or Microsoft calendar, because I agree it works with like all of the things on your computer. So if you have an HP, Outlook calendar or Microsoft calendar, I think it's called Outlook, is amazing. You can color code, you can filter, you can set rules. Like it is definitely amazing. But don't add it to your already full to-do list. I would say add that in as an exploratory item.
So
Thank
I
you for sharing.
will just, oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
I was just going to add, so at work we use Outlook because just about a lot of businesses, I won't say all, but a lot of businesses do use the Microsoft suite. And one good thing about that is you can, and you can do it with the Google Calendar too, is you can do tasks and you can pull out the widget on your phone and you can see the list on your phone. So instead of even having to open up an app, you can just quick look at it and kind of see where you are during the day, because sometimes just the act of opening the app feels like too much. But
I agree.
if you could just kind of pull the widget out, look at your list, set reminders and that type of thing, it makes it a little bit easier. Also tell somebody you're supposed to do it. Accountability. Sometimes you feel guilty about not doing it if you know somebody thinks you're going to do it.
Yeah, definitely works. I was trying to learn how to use Slack because Amazon had its own services where we chime, it was called Chime, and we would chime each other. Amazon is moving towards Slack. And so I told one of my coworkers, like, I'm going to learn Slack. And he's messaged me every day to ask me if I'm actually learning Slack. So that peer pressure is real. That is the best tip I've ever heard. Alrighty. But before we get into this Q&A here, I do want to mention a couple of things that are super helpful. Has everyone in this call heard of like the pebbles, the rock, and the sand video about tasks? So I'll tell you the story and then I will send you to YouTube to go actually find the video so they say it a little bit better than I do. But essentially there was a professor in school who brought in rocks, pebbles, and sand into his class. And he put the rocks into the jar, in a jar. He brought a jar as well. He put the rocks into the jar and he asked the class, is this full? So he filled it to the top with the rocks. They said, absolutely, it's full. Nothing else could fit. He then took the pebbles and he poured it into the jar and they fit. They all kind of sifted through the jar. And so then he asked the class, is this jar full? And they said, absolutely, it's full. There's no space left in the jar. He then took sand and he poured the sand into the jar and it fit. Everything fit into the jar, didn't go over the jar. And he then asked the class, is this jar full? They said, absolutely. He took water and he poured the water into the jar, also fit, right? And so all of this to say is that we think that our plates could be full. We think that our jar could be full. We think that we have too much on our plate, when in reality, we're not prioritizing the right things. So if he would have put the sand in first, those rocks would have never fit, right? It is the order in which we place things onto our to-do list or onto our tasks that really bogs down our day. So when we look at what those tasks are and we prioritize them using the Eisenhower matrix, and you really look at what's important, what do I need to work on, what's going to take up a lot of my time, what can I get through really quickly, that is all of those little steps are going to add up together and you'll notice that you start managing your time just generally better. The next pro tip that I would highly, highly recommend is that when you are really stressed, when you get to that point where your to-do list is 30 items plus, right? When you are getting to that point, I recommend just taking a break. And I talked about setting times and setting alarms for the times that you're working. Also set times and alarms for times that you're not, right? So if say you're working on your paper and you need a break and your to-do list is absolutely horrible and you're feeling stressed out, set a timer for 30 minutes and just listen to music, de-stress, take a walk, right? Like be intentional about what that time looks like. And then the last one, my last pro tip for everyone is project stacking or task stacking. Taking the things that are very similar, right, and putting them together. For example, when I was an area manager in the warehouse, there were 3 different associate facing items that I had to do every single day. The first was an audit on the associates just to make sure that they were being safe in their operation. The second was what we call a working well huddle. We would interact with a different group of associates every single day to show them what the safety procedures are, how to bend properly, how to lift properly, how to use their protective equipment properly. And then the third one was a cleaning audit-ish, where we took one part of the building and we cleaned that part of the building with associates every single day, right? And so those 3 tasks individually could have taken up 30 full minutes, probably more, because when you're talking to people, it takes a whole lot longer than what you're usually expecting. But what I ended up doing was I stacked all 3 of those together. So the same people that I did the working well huddle with, I did the audits with, and then we went for a little walk and we went and cleaned up a part of the building. And so if you think about your schedule, if you think about your to-do list and look at the things that you could potentially put together, definitely try to do that because it will start reducing those things. Now, if your project list is 15, 20, 30 items long, it's definitely too long. So try to prioritize them using that matrix. Take the top 5. Work on those top 5, work on what that looks like. And then the last piece that I will add before we get right into Q&A is when you are working with, when you get into the workforce, maybe a teacher could help you in this instance, right? Showing that list and showing your to-do list to other people and kind of helping them help you prioritize helps as well. There have been many times where I've gone to my direct manager and said, I have these 20 things, I have 10 hours in my day, this is 30 hours worth of work. What do you see as a priority? Because sometimes we are bogged down on what we feel is important or urgent in that current moment. And just getting a fresh set of eyes on what that looks like so that you can reprioritize and refigure out kind of what you're doing on your schedule. I know I threw a couple of pro tips at you, but I did want to leave time for the Q&A. So I will open it up if anyone has any questions.
I have a question. So, what would you recommend if like you have 2 tasks that are in similar like urgency and importance, but one of them like would take a lot longer, or it's like more dreadful to do than the other one? I feel like I already like maybe I would do the one that seems like it would be easier to do first, but like I just wanted to know like what you thought would be best.
Me personally, I would do the same, right? I look at it as like kind of a reward system, right? Like I'm going to get this quick, easy one done first. Then I know I'm mentally capable of interacting with the one that's difficult. So people do tend to go for the easiest things on their to-do list first. If you can get one crossed off, it will give you, boost your serotonin and give you the confidence to start that next one. So I would do that as well. Great question. That's not science, but it helps me. Go ahead, Samantha.
What is your like opinion on like managing your day like hour to hour? Like, do you see that as micromanaging or do you see that as like a good thing?
I have never loved the micromanaging boss, and I don't want to do that to myself. So I guess it depends on your personality, right? There are definitely members that I have that they do plan out every single minute of their day. But I tend to find that if I do that and I get behind, I start to be negative and put myself down. And so it's not super helpful for myself. That's why I do like buckets of time and give myself time in between. So if you find that you're getting into like the tailspin of, hey, I didn't accomplish task number 1, and now I'm snowballing into the rest of my day, I wouldn't recommend it. But if that is something that you like and that works really well for you, because some people do love schedule, then absolutely work on that. Any other questions? Alrighty, if no one has any other questions, I'll hang back just a little bit, but Miguel, if you could share my email address with everyone, that would be amazingly fantastic. And I wish you all luck in your future careers and the rest of school, and I appreciate y'all very, very, very much.